John and Ron, Art just said that was another format of the same information. So if we got the first two, that was sufficient. We didn't have to get it a different way.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you.
Welcome, Arthur.
Everybody got this shot?
I did.
What shot?
Vaccination. I got mine yesterday. I got sick last night.
Ron's too young.
I did it the old-fashioned way.
What's that? You jumped in a pool full of COVID germs or what?
I got COVID
Oh, you got
Did
COVID.
you really? Oh my God, Joseph.
in February
Oh,
last month.
Really?
Yeah.
did you get fever or just
No, like 7 days, fever on and off.
the whole family got it or just you?
No one else got it, just
Oh,
me.
lucky you.
What's your blood type?
A positive.
A.
Well, it could be a sign that you have a strong immune system that reacted to, a mild exposure.
So now you don't want to get vaccinated?
Those are very personal questions. I don't mind getting vaccinated or not. Like
They may not.
I'm not worried about it.
My niece had the same situation, and they tested her, and the doctor said your antibody
Yeah.
count is too high, and we're not going to let you get the vaccine yet.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that
Yeah,
got COVID and they don't want to get vaccinated.
Is there anyone else in, like, non-ZBA members here?
Everybody's in the waiting room. You want me to let them in?
Okay,
Yeah.
are we all ready?
Yeah, everything's ready.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all, and we'll
I'll
get
let them
started.
in. I let them in.
Thank you.
Russ isn't back yet.
And we're opening up. Well, good evening and welcome. My name is Joseph Malcarney. I am the zoning board chairman from the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals. And I have several colleagues, and we'll have them introduce themselves, or actually I'll introduce them a little bit later. To start with, I have a opening statement that I have the privilege of reading every meeting. So tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, 2020 executive order number 202.1 as extended, which suspends certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow the ZBA to convene a meeting via video conference. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's ZBA meeting via YouTube. And a link to the town's YouTube channel has been provided in the meeting notice, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. So my colleagues, I will call their names, and if you could just wave your hands so that people know who you are and that you are here. Is John Calogero, Charles Canham, Norma Dolan, Ron Mostello, Arthur Weiland, and Russ Tompkins. And of course, we have Arlene, who we appreciate, who's been here and always is a great support to us in the board. The agenda for the meeting is as follows: the Rossman area variance, Delmello area variance, and Zachariah area variance. Have all property owners been notified, Arlene, and fees?
Yes, they're here.
Okay, great. So we will begin with the Rossman area variance. So who do we have here for that?
Can we go to gallery view?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can we go to gallery view?
You can adjust that on your
On the
screen.
screen.
Arthur, yeah, you do that.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm a little, now I'm really, you go ahead. I'm just going to monitor the background.
All right. So yes, go ahead. So
Hi.
you introduce yourselves and then kind of explain why you're here this evening.
Sure. Thank you all for giving us this opportunity. I'm Adam Rossman, together with my wife, who's close by are the owners of 110 Mountain View Road. And I'll turn it over to our colleague and friend Karen Payson, our architect.
Hi, I'm Karen Payson, and I am the architect for the house that is under construction at 110 Mountain View Road and the subject of this variance for the pool. It's an area variance. And Arlene, yeah, if you could show the documents, that would be great. So the site is actually, could we look at the first slide, please, Arlene? And also, thank you, everybody. Hello. The first slide is showing you where the property is. You can see that it's a flag lot.
Sorry.
And as a flag lot, its front yard faces the backyard of the house that is between the developed area of this lot and the road. And the purpose of the variance is to ask to put a pool between the front wall of the principal building and the road. And so Arlene, can we take a look at the second slide, please? So the site is rather tight in terms of the topography, and we did come before you more than a year ago to ask for a variance to locate the building 50 feet from the rear property line rather than 75 feet. And the purpose of that was to set the building in the flattest part of the site, design it so that it fits into the site instead of dominating the site. And so there's no room behind the house to put a swimming pool. And the swimming pool that we have designed for this, part of the plan for the development of this property, sits almost 1,000 feet from the road and sits more than 200 feet from the front setback line. The house will be quite a ways. The building area is quite a bit higher than the road. It's set back between, there are a couple of rows or layers of trees between the building site and the road. Those couple of layers of trees are also between the building site and the property that is between 110 Mountain View and the road. And so we are asking for this variance. We feel that it's reasonable. We feel that it is a good use of the site in terms of the way the building and the accessories are. By accessories, I don't mean accessory buildings. I mean stuff that supports the house, the pool, and the retaining walls. It is really, as I said earlier, it is designed to fit into the hillside and keep a pretty low profile.
And Karen, can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Everyone can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I just want to add, and Karen, you can support the idea if you'd like, that we're doing some work with the trees and other growth on the site. And the intent would be not be able to see the pool, probably not even be able to see the house, frankly, from the road.
Yeah, thank you for that, Adam, because the point here, I think, really is privacy. And the community wants privacy from having to see someone's swimming pool, but the owner also wants privacy from the community seeing what they're doing up at their house. And so there are as I said, there are two layers of pretty substantial trees, two stands of trees that are pretty substantial. Some of them are being thinned out, but other planting is also proposed to enhance privacy. And so we don't want to be seen any more than the community wants to see us, essentially. And so we are making a serious effort to protect that privacy in both directions.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Mr. Cannon? Will you take it?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start by apologizing. All of the documentation insists on adding an extra letter S into the applicant's last name. But
no problem. No problem.
Yes, I'll many of the zoning board members remember this application a year and a half ago And the variance then actually did mention the pool, but did not specifically address the fact that the pool was intended to be in front of the house. And so, you know, in principle, we probably could have dealt with this all at once then, but the case here now is to deal with the issue about the pool. I'll start by just summarizing the planning board motion. The planning board meeting on March 2nd of this month, the 2nd of this month, Mr. Carroll motioned that the planning board makes a positive recommendation on the requested variance to permit construction of a private swimming pool in front of the permitted principal use as requested by the applicants at 110 Mountain View Road. They note the shape of the lot as a flag. The property is within the ridgeline protection area, but single-family residences are exempt from most of the provisions of that. They state the variance requested is not substantial as the site is heavily wooded and the structure will not be visible from the road or nearby buildings. Furthermore, the lot is steeply sloped and the principal structure is already located in the setback area. So construction of a pool behind the house would encroach even further within the setback. They note that an undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood. And again, note that the proposed variance should not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Therefore, the motion was approved 6-0. I visited the site today. It's the first time I've been there since the previous application. There's a lot of work has gone on. I think that the other key feature here is that not only is this property quite a ways up from the road, they've had to level off the site, and so it was hard for me to imagine being able to see the pool. In fact, I'm certain you couldn't see the pool. The pool's set into the ground. It wasn't even clear to me you'd be able to see much of the house. I don't have a drawing of the house, but that the stand of trees to the front of the house is a reasonably dense stand, mostly of maples and some oaks. And then there's some more trees further to the, I guess that's to the west of the driveway. When we addressed this plan before, we determined that moving the house back into the setback by 25 feet made the most sense in terms of the placement of the house on the property. And it clearly precludes putting a pool behind the house. But in this case, as the applicants have noted, the location of the pool is, to my mind, pretty substantially invisible. So that's my summary of at least my visit today.
Charles, any other comments from the board?
Just got a question. That light blue, that's the pool?
That's the pool.
Okay, because I was up there and I was trying to decide where it was going to be. And I thought maybe it was going to be to the north, but I see where it is now. Fine, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public at this time? Okay.
Well, hold on. Do you want to talk, Nina? You got to ask to unmute. Unmute.
Oh, you're muted. Okay.
Okay. I was just wondering where the electrical box is. I was trying to figure out, because I know where the electrical box is up there. I was just looking. I took a trip up there, but could we go back to that map again?
Hold on. I just have to show your face. Can you see it or no?
Where's the electrical box as you come up the?
Sorry.
Arlene, could you please zoom in on the area just to the right of the pool? Or just zoom in on that part of the plan.
Hold on.
There's actually an electrical box there right now. and we're gonna move it to the
Darren?
top of the driveway, about 10 feet from where it is right now. And it's going to be, it will not be visible unless you go poking through their shrubs.
I was just trying to get myself situated because I couldn't figure out where things were. Okay.
All right, any other questions, Nina?
No, actually.
Okay.
Hold on, let's see if Katie wants to talk. Katie? Katie?
Katie, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Hello?
Hi, Katie.
Hi. I'm actually trying to get my face there, but I can't seem to do
You
it.
gotta, your
What do
video,
I do?
on your Zoom, on your video, you gotta,
Does it, okay, go to the right. Hold on, let's see if this works.
right now, there's a cross on the video picture. You gotta click on that.
Well, I'm not, okay.
We,
I don't really have any questions.
okay.
I don't really have any questions. I was just curious
All right.
Okay,
what the plan was.
just wanna make
Sure.
sure you're
I
giving.
think I lost myself. Maybe you can hear me.
Yes,
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. So were you able to hear the discussion earlier?
I did. I heard, and I looked, and I saw the plans.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. All right, good. Are there any other questions that anyone else has? All right, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Further comments from the board? Okay, Charles, your motion.
Charles is muted.
Click, thank you. I move that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant the requested area variance to section 250-74B to permit construction of a private swimming pool in front of the principal dwelling unit as requested by Adam and Elizabeth Rossman on property located at 110 Mountain View Road, Rhinebeck, New York, with the tax grid noted in an AR5 zoning district. Factors: 1, the applicants are requesting permission to construct a private swimming pool in front of the principal dwelling unit on a 5.36 acre flag-shaped lot. 2, the variance requested is not substantial as the site is forested, typo there, sorry, to the front of the lot from the proposed pool location, and the structure will not be visible from the road or nearby homes. Furthermore, the lot is steeply sloped and the principal structure is already located in the setback area, so construction of a pool behind the house would encroach even further within the setback. 3, an undesirable change will not be produced in the character of the neighborhood or be detrimental to nearby properties. 4, the proposed variance should not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood. 5, the property is within the ridgeline protection area and single-family residences are exempted from section 250-15 of the town code regarding ridgeline scenic and historic protection overlay district regulations. 6, the property is not in a critical environmental area. 7, the alleged difficulty is self-created but should not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance considering the surrounding conditions and natural screening. 8, an area variance is a type 2 action under SECRA and does not require further review. Conditions, just 1, that all fees have been paid.
Second for discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
I would just like to say, I'm sure the applicants understand just how much work they're going to have to do to stabilize all the ground that's been disturbed and planting. It's and you know that, and you will want to get to it rapidly as spring and summer rains come.
Well, just so you know, we did a lot of site work before anything began. We have a really good landscape architect on our team from the beginning, and we've done a lot of site stabilization even in advance of, well, of course, in advance of demo.
Yeah, no, I was very impressed last a year and a half ago with the construction of the driveway and the efforts taken to make sure you stabilize the slope there. But there's a lot of earth moving going on at the moment, and I know you're aware that you want to try to keep on top of that.
Absolutely. We have a very professional team. And so I just want to put your mind at rest that we are definitely taking care of that.
Thank you, Karen.
I agree.
Further comments from the board about the motion? Any? Arlene, are there unpaid fees for this?
Oh, it's just the legal ads and stuff. Publication fees.
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so I am going to go through the board. If you would vote, an aye vote is in favor of granting the variance and a nay vote in opposition to grant the variance. John Calogero.
Aye.
Charles Canham.
Aye.
Norma Dolan.
You're muted.
You're muted.
All right, that's an aye.
It won't there we go. It didn't unmute right away. Aye.
All right. Ron Mostello.
Aye.
Arthur Weiland.
Aye.
Russ Tompkins.
Aye.
And my vote is aye. So your conditional variance is granted.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your friendly advice.
When does the pool open?
As soon as
Private
possible, we'll
pool,
send out
John.
invites.
If it's a public pool, there are a whole nother set of rules.
Oh, yeah, no.
All right. Well, thank you again, and follow up with Arlene about the next steps.
We
Thank
will.
you.
Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Take
Night.
care.
Okay, next up we have the DeMello area variance, and Darren, is that are you?
That one is me, yes.
That's you. All right. So you kind of you saw our drill here. So if you would be so kind as to give us a rundown on what it is that you are here for and what you're asking of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Certainly. Well, first off, thank you for having me. And the property we're talking about tonight is 13 Mountain View Road, which is at the far end, the western end of Mountain View, right at the intersection of Schultz Hill Road, just to place it for everyone. And we'll call the parcel a 10.41 acre parcel, which it currently is, but you might find that there's some earlier references to it as two different parcels. There was a 2.81 and a 7.6 acre parcel that we recently combined together, both under the same ownership. And the reason we combined it together was so that we exceeded the 10 acre threshold that would be required to do some of the work that we're proposing at the site. We're in the AR5 zone, and we are actually here tonight to talk about two separate variances. Arlene, I think maybe start with the site plan that shows the topography, and then we can quickly jump to the blue and red one. The one I sent you tonight by email is probably just the easiest to find if you want to do that. So two separate variances that we're seeking, both relating to existing structures on the site. The first variance is for a front yard setback. As I mentioned, we're in the AR5 zone, but we only have 37 feet to the front of the existing residence. And
Is the one you want to share, the site plan?
any of the site plans will do, but the start maybe, yeah, the one you're clicked on is fine. And then we'll jump to the blue and red version. Or if you go to my email, like the two exhibits were just in there.
This is the one that you sent today.
What's that?
This is the one that you sent today. One of them.
Oh, I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, click.
Oh, you're not seeing anything?
I'm seeing a menu.
Yeah, no.
Oh, hold on. That's why. How's this?
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. So this is the overall site plan. And in a minute, we'll jump to a little bit more of a zoomed in version because we're dealing with 10 acres here and there's a lot going on the site. And when there's topography layers and driveways and things like that, it gets a little bit hard to follow. But hopefully I can clarify some of that just by showing you a little bit simpler of an exhibit, which will just focus in primarily on the center section of the site here. And it'll still retain Mountain View Road as a reference point. But before we jump to the other plan, if you look center of the screen, the biggest structure there, the biggest structure being the one that's boxes with crosshatch in it, that is the existing residence. And as it sits today, the first floor area of that is 3,760 square feet. And our clients are proposing to remove an addition to the rear of the house and replace it with another addition, which will occupy the area that's currently there, plus some. We'd actually be adding another 1,100 square feet of footprint to this building. Arlene, if while I'm talking, maybe you can switch to the second exhibit that I sent you today, and that'll really help highlight what's new and what's existing, at least for our proposal. So the work that we're proposing to do to that residence, although it all exists in the rear of the house, ends up being entirely within the required 100-foot setback. I think that's Hollow Road. That's my next matter. So just one more up from the one I.
Can you see it?
This is the wrong site though. This is the next matter. There you go. Variant zoom map. That's the right one.
Can you see it, right?
I can see your file names, but not the file yet, almost as it hasn't, the click hasn't taken maybe.
There you go.
It's coming, I think. There we go. Perfect. So this is just a zoom in of what I just showed, just for illustration purposes. But again, the main house being center of the screen at the bottom, Mountain View Road being along the bottom there. So we just eliminated 7 or 8 acres that don't have any structures on them. So what I'm speaking about is the main house, the box in gray, and the addition I'm speaking about adds the footprint in red to the existing building. So as you can see, it's all work proposed behind the existing house, behind the original 1793 house that exists there today. But the issue arises that the house itself is too close to the road. So we've been informed that any modification to a house which is not in compliance requires us to come in for a variance. So not only does the house itself sit too close to the road, the work we're proposing also is happening within the front yard setback as required in our zone. So that's variance number 1 of 2. Essentially, we're putting back a lot of the same type of square footage, just in a more organized way, a more functional way for the family that owns the parcel. It's largely kitchen and master bedroom space and living area. It meets all other requirements. It actually, height-wise, is all behind the existing front plane of the building, and does not affect the original 1793 structure. And then the other variance that we're here tonight to talk about relates to the number of structures on the site. So we know that in the AR5 zone, we're allowed a principal dwelling and 3 accessory structures. We actually are 1 in excess of that. We have 4 existing accessory structures. And I emphasize existing. These are all things that exist on the site today. The need for the variance comes about because we're proposing to modify some of those existing structures. So if we work from left to right, what we're calling Stone Cottage is currently a garage, a stone garage that we're proposing to convert into a detached accessory dwelling. So the ground footprint would stay the same, but we would be creating living area inside and adding a loft space to it. So in grand total, we'd be adding 70 square feet of living area to the building, but the footprint would remain at its existing 530 square feet. And of course, it would get all of the things required to make it a residence. But nothing changing with the footprint and no other bulk requirement violations or issues. As far as we can see, we're far enough from the wetlands, we meet all the setback requirements and such. Moving to the left in blue, we have the pool and associated accessory structures. Again, all existing. It just doesn't appear, these were the latest addition to the property. It just doesn't appear variance was ever granted when these were constructed. So accessory structure number 2 is the pool and the associated amenities, and we're actually not proposing to change that. That's just an as-is situation. We're not doing work there other than maybe some pretty flowers. Moving again to the right, I think I said the left before, to the right, we have an existing barn. And what we're proposing, more as a placeholder, we're worried about segmentation here, is an expansion of that barn. We show it as a doubling of the barn, just sort of setting a similar structure next to it so that we can retain some roof lines. This is really something that the clients intend to do down the road, and we're just trying to be upfront about it and say, you know, this is in the works and we didn't want to go through a planning and zoning process and then come back 6 months, a year, 5 years later without having cleared this up in advance. We didn't want to be accused of segmentation or just, you know, breaking an application into 2 pieces. But to be frank, there's absolutely no architecture developed for that building. The clients use it as a home gym. So the thought is at some point, you know, they would want some more area, playhouse space to use as an office, to use for storage. It's really unresolved, but we figured while we were here, we should tell you everything. And then moving down on the page, we have the existing garage, chicken coop, poultry building, and that rounds out our 4th accessory structure. And we're proposing some renovations to that building to actually convert it to a functioning garage, given the loss of the stone garage on the property. But nothing that apparently triggers any type of variance relief because it's all within the existing footprint. So those are the 2 issues we're here tonight to discuss.
Great, thank you very much, Darren. Appreciate the clarity of your explanation, and always nice to see you.
Likewise.
Arthur, if you can take it away.
Okay, so I now have 2 different maps that I'm looking at. The one that Arlene showed earlier, which is the lot with 10 acres, and the one that we got in our packet. In both cases, I don't understand some of the things indicated on either of the maps. So which one shall we go to first?
Recommendation.
You
want to read the recommendation first?
I think he wants to look at one of the 2 different maps submitted. I think it's just a stripped down version, and they're the same map, but with some.
No, they're not. No,
okay.
There's activity. So the map that we saw earlier.
Hold on. Let me get it. This one?
I don't know.
Hold on. Sorry.
I can't read your menu.
This one.
I can't. Yes. Okay, we have the 4 structures that we just discussed, but off to the left, is that a septic area off to the left of the driveway near the stone barn?
No, it's a stone ruin. It's some stone walls that were originally a foundation. Maybe about 8 inches tall, and hardly complete in the rectangle as shown. It's just mainly vegetation at this point, so a landscape feature.
Okay, and then the driveway circle right above the pool. There's a square structure up there.
Yeah, that's remnants of a landscape plan, a layer that was left on. It's just a compost area, so turn around and compost bins, just open top.
Very good. Now, the map that we have in our packet looks like it has a fence going around the property, but not going as far as the stone barn. I bet you that's the stone barn on the edge of what might be a fence, and then the ruin next to the stone barn on the map that came with our packet. I'm just going to assume that the map that came with our packet is still talking about the same 4 structures.
Same 4 structures. I think this map is just, we stripped a few things away. The clients were originally thinking of a lot more landscaping, and there was a hot tub shown and things that have been abandoned since we started the approval process.
If we we can take that map down, that'd be great.
What, the one that you have?
She's just saying, yeah, go back to this view right here, Arlene.
The
Very
one.
good, thank you. I'm going to be turning to read off my other computer here. I want to address the, excuse me, the number of accessory structures first. And I sent a proposed variant that I would like to read. It starts with an opening paragraph.
Arthur, I know you're kind of diving into that. Do you want to touch base on the planning board recommendation?
Certainly, certainly. It's extensive. I wish I had a glass of water.
Just, but
Yeah. That's the normal process. Boy, let me get a little water. I'll be right back. It's not only a moment away.
I will ask a question of, while he's gone, on that first map for the Mr. Davidowitz, I believe.
Yes.
It showed two cul-de-sacs, and one you said was a compost pile. I was wondering about that square thing too, because I thought it was another building. But then there's another bigger cul-de-sac to the left going over. And what was that purpose for?
These are just gravel driveways. They're service roads, to get up to the back of the pool. For the most part, they're grass most of the year. Late summer, they tend to turn more into gravel again.
Well, the one that goes up by the stone cottage splits, and you go to the right where you said the compost pile was, and then to the left, it looks like there might be 3 parking spots up there. I don't know.
The left is the compost pile, actually. It's 3 slots. It's, how to describe it, 4-foot tall cubes where you
like
just
bins where you put stuff.
bins. Yeah, they're just open top bins with 3 sides to them.
But Arthur was talking about the one that goes to the right, which is a small loop, which is kind of behind the pool. And there was a square thing showing on that closer to the pool. And you said that was
This one?
compost pile. So if
Oh,
you see
that's
where the pool is, just
it's
up
a-
and to the left of it on that circular thing, there's a square in
Yeah, it's hard to read. It says pool equipment. So that's where the filter is, the heater, the things that serve the pool.
Yeah, that's inside.
Okay.
It says just to the right of it, you can just make it out, pool equipment. That's where all the filtration is.
Okay, yeah, now I can.
Pool and such.
So it's all part of the pool. Yeah.
It's all part of the pool. Yeah, that just cleans the water.
That's what was detailed in the other map in a sort of bluish gray outline, correct?
Yeah, it was all blue on the other map, just to say the pool and accessory structures as a bundle, which I understand to be considered a single structure.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, Arthur, back to you. Can you close that out, Arlene?
I have to take a backtrack a second. I noticed, and I also checked with Darren about both owners signing authority to act, which came through. I can see Marlene's nodding. Just wanted to touch base on that while it was in my mind. Okay, so Darren got a letter from the planning board regarding the Clark DeMello variance, 13 Mountain Road, tax grid. I think the new number is 0707. Well, the current number is 070730. Is that what I have here? 070730. Yeah, there's a confusion in some of this paperwork. Dear Mr. Davidowitz, at the Town of Clinton Planning Board meeting held on March 2nd, 2021, regarding the above subject application, the following motion was made. Mr. Auspitz motioned that the Town of Clinton Planning Board is making a positive recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals on the request area variance of section 250, attachment to reducing the front yard setback from 100 feet to 37 feet, 7 inches, and section 250-22A-4 to increase the number of accessory structures from 3 to 4 in order to install an in-ground pool as requested by Michael Clark and Carmine DeMello on the property located at 13 Mountain View Road, tax grid as indicated in an AR5 zoning district. Whereas One, applicants Michael Clark and Garmine DeMello seek 2 area variances pursuant to section 250-98D1 of the zoning code for their property on 13 Mountain View Road, town of Clinton. I didn't catch that earlier, pardon me. All right, that's 2. First,
That's actually the grid number.
It's a 250-98D1. Whereas up above, they're talking about 250-22A4. Anyway, I'll go on to number 2. First, the applicants seek a variance from the required minimum 100-foot setback in AR5 zone property for the primary residence on the property, which would be set back only 37.7 feet from Mountain View Road. 3, where this is where the existing front of the residence is, while applicants propose a substantial restructure of the home, it would be to the rear of the building, and so approximately 100,000 additional square footage and other considerable work will not increase the nonconformity of the front yard setback beyond what it is today. The house was first built in 1793 when it was common for homes to be near as near to the road as possible. Pardon me. 4, the zoning code appears to give great latitude to the Zoning Board of Appeals, brackets ZBA, close brackets, to consider whether a proposed variance will affect the character of the neighborhood, adversely impact the physical conditions of the neighborhood, etc. Since the role of the planning board is limited to making recommendations to the ZBA, we act narrowly and consider only the distance of the front of the residence from the road. We do not consider the impact of the substantial change to the appearance of the existing building would have on the view from Mountain View Road. The effect of the historical nature of the building, brackets, parentheses rather, whatever. Applicants say that the historical part of the existing home will be unchanged because the restructuring will be limited to the recent addition, close parentheses, etc. period. Considering the design of the building, just because a variance is sought for its location may arguably get into issues of aesthetics that may be beyond our role. 5, judgment by that standard, the distance of the residence from the road is unchanged by the proposal. The 37-foot distance causes no change in the character of the neighborhood. The benefit to the owner could not be achieved in a different way, short of tearing down the entire structure and starting 100 feet back. Parentheses, where the proposed addition might still cause the same impact on the view from the road, close parentheses, comma, and the variance will not have an adverse impact on the environment, period. The variance sought, comma, solely regarding the distance from the road, comma, is not substantial and is self-created. 6, the second variance applicants seek is to the number of accessory structures. The permitted number of accessory structures is 3, section 250-22A4. Applicants state that there are currently 4 accessory structures and seek a variance to allow them. All 4 buildings are pre-existing structures. Therefore, we consider that simply in terms of the number of structures allowed under 250-22, the variance sought is not substantial, will not result in undesirable change in the neighborhood, cannot be achieved by another fashion, and will not have an adverse impact on the environment. 7, the applicant states that they intend to convert one of the structures to an accessory dwelling unit and at some point to expand another. The proposed accessory dwelling unit is governed by section 250-29, and we do not here make any recommendations or ruling with respect to that section. Pardon me while I think about that for a second. Yeah, thank you. Nor do we consider here any of the site plan with respect to possible changes to other buildings, since that is not part of the variance request. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the planning board makes a positive recommendation to the zoning board of appeals regarding the applicant's request as described above for variances of the minimum front yard setback from 100 to 37 feet with regard to the principal residence, and a positive recommendation regarding applicant's request for variance to allow for 4 existing accessory structures. Seconded by Mr. Thomas, all ayes 6-0.
Okay, now to your questions and what you were getting into, Arthur.
Oh, yes, all right. Moment, please.
Sure.
Okay, so the sort of a preamble to a motion. I'd like to deal with the accessory structures first, because if they wouldn't pass, the 37-foot wouldn't matter anyway. So we've got to get both of them cleared away, but I'd like to just deal with that one first.
Sure.
And my opening paragraph says, currently the assessor's records have 5 accessory structures on the parcel. Inspection of the parcel reveals that one has been removed, parentheses, without a demolition permit, close parentheses, period. In 2002, a building permit number 4302 was requested for a 20 by 40-foot pool. In 2002, assessor's records would have had at that time 4 accessory structures. A variance would have been needed for a 5th structure, but the human/bureaucratic error granted the permit without referring it to the town boards. In 2003, the pool was added to the assessor's rolls and taxed. So, an error in our government in 2002. And it hasn't cost the taxpayers any money. Everything has been proceeding. There haven't been any complaints. And then I make a motion regarding the variance on that. Shall we go to discussion and public on this?
Sure, I'm fine with that. More discussion from the board. Any comments or
I think Arthur's brought up a lot of the points that I was looking at too, looking at this paperwork. And I did go look, and there's a sheet attached to it which indicated when the permit was issued for the pool back in June of 2002. And then they have a thing where it was completed in 2004. So that's what he said, that was apparently put in place, and it was never granted a variance because of some error at the time, and it slipped through the cracks. I do notice, it's not a big thing, but I see on Mr. Fenton's denial letter, I was reading that, and the request, the denial says that it required minimum setback is 100 foot, proposes 11. So there's an error in the denial letter. I don't think that really is relevant because we know it's 37, and what I saw that error in there. And there was some plot numbers that were incorrect in the paperwork, but the person applying for this has the correct ones. The planning board had an error in the numbers.
In the beginning, he presented a different number. I think he calculated an accurate number after, Darren. Right, Darren?
Yeah, it could have definitely been on my end. And I think the confusion with the parcel numbers is originally it was 2 parcels, which were combined within the past 3 months. So I think a lot of records haven't updated yet. And it was originally referred to as 2 separate parcels. Now it's 1.
Well, you had the right number, I believe. It's a bigger parcel in front. The planning board had the smaller parcel in the back, 2-point-some acres.
I see.
Yeah, I spoke to I spoke to the assessor. Our computers were not updated, but her computer is up to date, and the number that was on the front parcel has been assigned to the whole parcel now.
Yeah, it's my understanding.
Charles?
Yeah, I just wanted to check with Arthur about the numbers of accessory structures because I was a little confused too. I think The one that was removed was probably the machine shed. But
Yeah.
and so but it was only 120 square feet, so it shouldn't count in the number of access.
I disagree because it is a structure, just like a TV dish is a structure. It's an accessory structure. It doesn't need a building permit, fine, but it is a structure.
Well, but section 250.22B says, we've gone around on this, says one accessory building with a maximum floor area of 120 square feet may be installed or constructed. This is a building. Or utilized without the issuance of a building permit or certificate of occupancy, provided that, you know, then a bunch of other things, does not have a permanent foundation and so forth. And then it says quite clearly that such structures are not included in the total counted for accessories.
Thank you. Okay, you read it.
Well, yeah, and we've gone back and forth on this, and it was only a couple of years ago that I thought we finally decided to be consistent. But I still think that there are clearly four accessory structures on the property.
You're allowed one free.
Right, and they're only allowed 3. And what I wanted to point out was that the planning board recommendation calls them all pre-existing. Well, they're pre-existing today because they are not pre-existing to the zoning, right? The pool was added after zoning and clearly required a variance to go from 3 to 4. And that, to me, that's where the planning board recommendation sort of goes a little bit astray. Clearly, there is a need for a variance here. It's not, typically when we say pre-existing, we mean that it's exempt from a zoning requirement.
Prior to zoning.
And this is not the case. And I'd sort of like to have a discussion with the board. So presumably, if this were done properly, when the building permit for the pool was requested, the ZBA or the zoning enforcement officer would have said, well, this will put you over the limit, you'll need a variance. And there would have been a planning board and a ZBA discussion of this. And I'd like to talk through how we might have responded to that.
Can I just say something? I gave Art the copy of the building permit application when they applied for the swimming pool, and Finnell signed off on it. So my guess is during that time, he didn't count the 120 square foot.
That's his error.
Well, no, but even without counting the 120 square foot, there was the stone cottage, the poultry shed, and the horse barn. So those are 3 very clear pre-existing, accessory structures, right?
So Charles, is your question, how do we want to handle these in general where this was all issued before, though they did not get the proper approvals? Is that?
No, so I would like to hear from the rest of the zoning board. If we had been asked, would we have said, okay, you can have 4?
We have been asked, and we have done it in the past. There's a woman up near the Parkway who had 3 garages, and she wanted to keep all 3. They gave it to her. And she might have had 5 or 6 accessory structures, including the 3 garages.
Well, I'll just put my cards on the table. That poultry shed is not particularly attractive. It makes no sense to me as a garage. There's already a 3-car garage in the existing building, and it's 100 feet. The poultry shed's 100 feet from the house. So I guess if I have to tell you that if I were asked 7 years or whenever the pool was, I would have struggled to come up with a justification for exceeding the zoning here. In other words, I'm not sure why.
Charles, it's interesting.
So, yeah.
Go ahead, Russell.
On April 8th of last year, there was a permit issued for the renovation of the whole chicken coop, including siding, roofing, and windows. So apparently, that doesn't look like it started, but that expires 4/8/22. So apparently, they're intending upon, how would I say, beautifying that building somewhat.
That's correct.
I'm sure that Darren can address that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I touched on it briefly in the presentation, but that's exactly the intent, is to restore it, to recreate it, and make it a much more attractive version of itself. And the other thing I just wanted to point out, and I know that's not the topic at the moment, is that our clients took occupancy of this and purchased this in 2018. So the pool issue was 16 years prior to their purchase of the property. And I know that's not the point you're trying to make, but I just wanted to put that on the record as well.
I mean, the point is that title insurance and surveys should pick these things up, but often don't.
Helpful general contractors sometimes.
Charlie, would you have pushed for them taking down one of the other structures?
I mean, to me, I think we are an incredibly open-minded zoning board. And when there are hardships that interfere with, sort of legitimate use of the property, but my own philosophy is I need to be given an argument why there was a hardship here by imposing and following zoning law. And I don't see what I don't see what the argument is here for. We've certainly been faced with lots of cases where somebody had 5, 6, 7, 8 accessory structures and they wanted to do something, and typically they consolidate them and they lower the number down, but they're still above the limit. And then we just did one of those, geez, not too many months ago. So I'm just saying I'm not sure how I would have voted on a variance request to simply just, well, we want to go to 4. We don't want to take down one of these buildings. So
would the acreage, Charles, impact that decision? Meaning, it's 5 acre zoning and they have greater than 10 acres on that?
No, it wouldn't for me. I'm sorry. It just wouldn't. It's if it were 100 acres and it was a working farm, this would be moot because it would be, it would be exempt from this. But yeah, so that I just wanted to, make that point.
Well, Charlie, have you, item 2 in my motion is the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by demolishing one of the structures of varying value or granting a variance. So it's in there, those are the 2 options that the board can reasonably look at.
What are some other, kind of the thoughts and feelings from other board members?
Can I just add one thing? I'm going to have a motion in the positive, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. John, any thoughts?
I've got some concerns, and maybe they're not really relevant at this time, but there was a permit issued just recently for, I'll call it the Stone Cottage, and that was issued on January 11th of 21. Garage renovation, new doors, siding, roof, increased height of ceilings. In the package we received, there was a floor plan designed for the proposed changing that into an accessory dwelling unit. And it appears to me that some of those things have already been accomplished. There's a picture showing a wood stove, and it looks like there's I'll call it a metal thimble coming through the roof where that wood stove would be. And it looks like a plumbing vent, and that upper deck or loft has already been framed out. Seems like I think they've gone a little beyond what the permit was for. And the second thing I have concerning me is the proposed future addition to that barn. And from me looking at the picture, that doesn't look like an addition. It looks like another building bigger than the barn, just barely touching it. Looks like, to me, that would not be an addition. That would be another building that you'd have to look for a variance for that. And those are my 2 concerns for the future. And again, it doesn't really affect, I guess, these variances tonight, but those proposals, especially the addition to that barn, look like it's going to be, it doesn't look like an addition. It looks like another structure just happened to be touching it.
I can address them both if you'd like.
Sure, Darren, why don't you go ahead and share?
Sure. So, absolutely. The original plan for the stone cottage was just to make it an art studio. And then just on further reflection, the clients decided to pursue a detached accessory dwelling, a guest cottage, because they felt that would be more in the way they'd use the building. So the re-roofing project involved putting a plumbing stack and a chimney pipe through. There's not a fireplace in the building. It's just so that we could finish roofing the building and putting it back together to protect it from the elements. So it's been reframed, it's been re-roofed. The stone walls have been largely restored. We're still working on that. So just, good practice is to get your penetrations through the roof. If the approval wasn't to be granted, certainly we'd go back to some sort of guest or art studio use and likely keep the wood stove in there. So, that would be a useful pipe, and then the plumbing vent would, just be something that was unnecessary. And as far as the proposed addition to the stable, as I mentioned in the presentation, there's really not architecture developed for that. So that was just saying it's a footprint. It's an exact replica of the same box put next to the building. So just as a placeholder to say, we don't know what they might do there. We just want to be upfront about it. So there's nothing baked on that at all. And I don't know that.
Obviously, these things are going to, those are going to require permits then. You got to get a special permit to make this into an accessory dwelling unit.
Correct.
And you'd have to get a permit to do addition. I was amazed looking at the proposed septic system where you're going to put that way up by what I call the chicken coop. So you must be going to have a pumping station going up, and it's also tied in to the barn, which, looks like quite a project there.
Yeah, and to address that, I mean, diligence, aside, I don't know, who was land use counsel when our clients bought the property or the engineers were, but they've got a failing septic system there, and they have a house that's close to 6,000 square feet that's considered a 3-bedroom residence. So part of what we're doing is we are putting a septic system in the only good soil for it on the site up in the paddock. And we're creating a septic system that meets the current code, not only to save them from a failing septic system so that they can legitimize the number of bedrooms in the house, which would be part of this addition, and tie in the stone cottage. And then Dutchess County just encourages you to, if you're going to have any kind of sink or anything, they consider it a bedroom. So we've oversized the septic system to allow some sort of plumbing connection for a sink, not a bedroom necessarily, but any kind of sink to tie into that septic. So we've sized it anticipating the house, the stone cottage, and a sink.
Okay, Arthur?
Just to say, one of the things that I certainly, as a member of this board, would look negatively on is putting any tie-in from a studio stone cottage into a septic system, even if it's quotes just a sink. That's one of the ways we keep outbuildings from becoming living units, is to keep the septic system, not to have a septic system attachment. So you can't just sort of sneak somebody into a building, which does happen around here, and have a fully functional living unit when it's only supposed to be a studio or a garage or whatever. That's just a reflection on my point. If you're thinking about putting a sink and tying it into the septic system, I suspect if the town found out about it, I would encourage the town to not allow that to be.
They have application for a special permit to convert that into an accessory dwelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, Arthur, what he was talking about, the sink was in the barn. The accessory dwelling is going to have a.
Well, the only place we've allowed sinks in a barn is actually agricultural that I'm aware of at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the clients are opposed to not putting plumbing in the building. I think it was just sort of, again, in the spirit of you're designing a septic system, you're making a massive investment, anticipate anything you might possibly need in the future. So I think we'd be more than happy to put some sort of provision in a resolution that said if they ever chose to put plumbing in another building, they would have to come back to this board or the planning board or whatever the case might be. I don't think we would redesign the septic, but I think we would certainly say, absolutely, we acknowledge no plumbing's allowed in any of these other structures.
Thank you.
I don't even think you're allowed to have a 2 accessory dwelling, because now you have the stone cottage and then to have the barn as another dwelling.
Well, it's not intended to be an accessory dwelling.
Well, I know, I'm talking about once you put a plumbing in it.
Right, so the planning board wouldn't grant it anyway, but you're right. I think the intent is if it was an art studio, somewhere to wash your hands, in the garage, it would be a place to, again, wash your hands. After potting, a potting shed type thing.
So any other, comments from?
Yes, I just want to say we talked to people about you can bring water into the building. We just don't want you tying into a septic system. If you can deal with the water in some other way.
I mean, certainly hose bibs or
hose bibs and other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, John, back to you. Try again.
I was going to bring up the the issue of the special permit necessary. I mean, they're being very upfront and they're talking about this, what was formerly a garage, and they're calling it an accessory dwelling unit. They're being very upfront about it, but I just wanted to make sure that they understood that that's not what we're granting them tonight. We don't have the power to do that, that they would have to go to the planning board for a special permit, and it's already been brought up.
Yeah, and we are processing with them, or intending to process as soon as we're done with this, if it's successful.
Ron, any thoughts or comments you want to share?
I guess I'd like a little bit more discussion, maybe not necessarily with the pool, but more so with the addition. I mean, it seems like we're still very much up in the air about the work, relating to the number of total structures, but not necessarily much discussion about the primary residence and the work there. For once, it's not my dogs barking.
That'd be me.
It's not Charlie.
Ron, I want to address that in a separate motion. So I have two motions.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
And yeah.
So, again, we've talked about a couple things. For me, a parcel that has twice the available zoning requirements does have an impact, meaning, they could technically split the lot and, deal with various different things, but, again, have a separate dwelling unit, have a separate accessory, 3 more accessory structures. So again, certainly when I look at those options, that does influence my decisions versus one that is, less than that, which means that, they're kind of stuck. Again, they have the acreage where they could, if they chose to go through that process and put in a whole separate dwelling unit and have 3 additional accessory structures. Norma, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll address your point first. If that's a component to whatever decision we make, I think it should be put in writing, that not be split if some consideration is given to the size of the lot. The other thing I wanted to ask, and the main house has already been added to once, correct?
I think multiple times, actually. There were several additions made to it over the years.
So we have this rule about increasing the size of a dwelling, but I don't know if you do it in increments, if it's okay. Do we look at it as total addition to an original building, or as
Is this a
what's there?
Is this a pre-existing non-conforming lot?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm just saying, because the rules kind of apply differently depending, it's not like a substandard lot. So what?
Oh, sure. No, I I didn't have the dates on when it might have been added to. I didn't see anything on the property record, so I didn't know when it had had additions.
I can tell you there was one in 2003 and one in 2016, and the proposal for the current edition contemplates removing the entire 2016 edition and replacing it with this current version of that. So one of those editions would completely be removed.
But a 1,000 square feet added.
It would be a larger edition, but it would remove a prior edition in doing so.
So what would be the sum total of all the additions, for instance, from 2016 to the present? I really don't know how we evaluate this. This is not a question.
Right. But I don't think we, just because of the lot, since the lot is, it meets the zoning requirements and the lot coverage isn't exceeded in those. I'm not sure that we have a limitation by the size of the building with this particular one, unless, someone else says, Charles?
Yeah,
The increase in the size of the building.
Yeah, it's interesting in that, for instance, my house, I cannot expand it anymore. And I'm tired of adding on to it because I have a non-conforming lot. It's too small for my district. And I've always assumed that it was the lot size that counted for the non-conformity, because section 250-84 says you can't expand more than 50% of the, in this case, any non-conformity would be because it was within the front yard setback. But I'm just not sure that means that the building is non-conforming. I think this is just one of those vague gray areas. To me, the lot is not non-conforming, and I would not have been inclined to apply that limitation to this one. But it's a gray area, Norma, for me. I agree.
Yeah, I'm really curious, because if you add, owners keep changing and you keep adding, I don't know, 500 square feet every couple of years, is it the sum total of the additions, or?
Right. I mean, and again, this is a good question to bring up. I've always gone with the lot size. So if it's 5 acre zoning and you have 5 acres, then, basically the house can be whatever you choose to make it, so long as you conform with the zoning. But if you had, and oftentimes these are like 1 acre parcels or less, where we're having kind of this constraint, or these 1/4 acre parcels. And then that's only 50%, but I don't think that applies to this particular parcel.
And that's always been my interpretation, Joseph, as well, for what it's worth.
I'm going to join in with Norma here, and non-conformities are to be reduced if possible, and then the 50%. I can see where she's going with the 50%. I hadn't given it any thought before, but I'm not too concerned on this lot, particularly because of lot size. Joseph, I was thinking the way you were, that we have a maximum lot coverage, but this is a non-conforming structure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of its grandfathered situation, not because of its anything currently. It's like the what used to be a restaurant over by the Parkway here was a non-conforming structure, and they wanted to enlarge that, so they should have been limited to 50%, which I think they might have been, and then eventually gave it up entirely.
I will note that in the definitions, the definition for a non-conforming building or structure mentions non-conforming with respect to lot area size, coverage of yards, or maximum height. Doesn't specifically say anything about setbacks.
Yeah, no, I think that's where we ended up, having gone through this a few times before. Okay, so I mean, again, I think that's a very good point to bring up, Norma.
Well, for my own edification, just.
Yeah, but with that, I think, again, the size based upon, the fact that this is greater than 5 acres, that one we don't. But again, great point to bring up.
Well, by purchasing that second lot and adding it to it, they have doubled their acreage, so they're non-conforming, and they have twice the area that they need to have the accessory structure.
Correct. Well, if you remember last month, we kind of went through something similar. You know, they took 3 lots and joined them together, and I mean, they still had many non-conformities, but it was less so. And again,
Yes.
we have a similar situation where we have 4, meaning they exist now, they're not being built, but we're trying to address and to bring it up to date, meaning, and I look at this to say, this by and large is not the applicant's fault. You know, they are dealing with something that, you know, should have been addressed back in 2003 or whenever the pool was built. And now, you know, they're looking to, you know, make it.
And I'm persuaded by your argument, Joseph. So you won me over.
Okay.
on this.
Good.
I agree too.
Yeah, but that does have a big impact with me. If you can split the parcel and do what you want to
Yeah,
with it,
right.
then that does have mean, just like if you want to put 2 dwelling units on it. And I agree with Norma, like we want to document it. We want to say that if you have 2 dwelling units, this parcel cannot be split. You know, this is to be 10 acre plus. And Darren, do you have any, you know, a feel for the owner if they have any reservations with making that type of commitment?
Absolutely 0 reservations with it. And I think the planning board's going to require it as well, because I think the threshold for a detached accessory dwelling is in fact twice the acreage. So that is entirely their intent. So they wouldn't have a problem with that appearing in a resolution or wherever it would need to.
Okay.
They're fine consolidating their 2 parcels to do this. So I wouldn't see them.
It actually has to go on the deed.
Okay. Ron, go ahead.
Can I just ask, Darren, you might have touched on this and maybe I missed it, and if so, I apologize, and it might require putting the map back up. There's a small rectangular sketch on the smaller parcel in the northeast corner.
This one?
I gotta get my bearings here. You'd have to zoom out quite a bit, Arlene, I think. It's not the topographical map. It's the one that shows the house with all the cross hatching in the patio area.
Different colors.
It was in our packets, I'm not sure.
I think it's called Zoom Map, Arlene. If that's the colored one, is MTV Variance Zoom Map.
Yes, 1 minute.
I missed this in my visit yesterday.
This one?
No. The page I'm looking at says C1, sheet number C1, site plan.
And it does show a rectangle, Ron. I see what you mean, up in the very northern.
Yeah, I was just curious what that is, if that's yet another structure or.
It's not a structure, but I want to see what it is on the plan.
Okay.
Fold as
Ron, do you have what you're looking at that you can just show us? And that way at least we have an idea of.
I don't know if this will, it's probably not going to be visible, is it?
No, yeah, I can see it. Just hold it up higher. I just want to see which one it is.
Okay, hold on. I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
We just want to see
All
which
the
one.
way up in the upper right-hand corner.
And I mean, knowing the site, it's essentially one of 2 things. There's a vegetable garden over there with some planter boxes and a fence around it. That might be it without seeing the map. And then the other thing is it could be the septic area or the replacement area for the septic.
Right, but there are no
The
other structures.
The perimeter of this is in hatches as if it was fenced, whereas the buildings are solid lines, not hatched lines.
Neither
This is
Google
up in the
Maps
upper
nor-
right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Of the original of the smaller parcel, yeah. Yeah, up there. Not quite a square. It's up past the barn, almost next to the barn.
I think that's the vegetable garden and the raised planter beds.
I'm quite a bit north of that. Art.
Quite a bit north of the barn. I don't.
It's right on the boundary line.
Yeah, it's right on the property line, the northernmost property line.
Hey, Ron?
Yes.
Both Google Maps and Parcel Access, the aerial photos don't show anything there. One is a winter photo, you can see through the trees. So unless it's a more recent structure, it wasn't there at the time the Parcel Access photo was taken.
Okay.
There's nothing up there. It's a sloping woodland.
Let me try to get my.
But there is a vegetable
This
garden
map
and there
is what
are.
you're talking about? Can you see it?
Is that the map you're talking about?
No.
No.
See if I can do this.
Is this driveway?
No, it's the one we got in our packet, I would think.
Yeah. Do you see where he's pointing? Arlene, put us back on the screen, the multi-view, if you can. Remove the map.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You
You
see where
can, scroll it down at the bottom so I could see what sheet is that.
Yeah, Arlene, don't worry about it. Darren, do you see where he's pointing?
If I can get him on full screen, let me see. I think I can pin him.
Very
Yeah.
long, narrow
I got it.
rectangle up there.
You know, I honestly don't know what that is. I certainly wouldn't grant a variance for it because I think it's either just an AutoCAD glitch or
There's nothing up there though.
there's nothing up there.
Okay, and then
Not asking for anything up there.
to the right of the proposed septic upgrade,
Correct.
this,
Primary and the expansion area for the septic you're pointing.
okay, I didn't see that in the key. I didn't pick that up. Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, try to leave some details off of different sheets so it's a little less to look at.
Was that another?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other? Yeah, John.
Yes, Joseph, I think I'm in harmony with you and Charles on the fact that whoever is responsible for this glitch concerning the pool not being counted as a structure, it doesn't seem to me that it's the present property owner. Somebody dropped the ball someplace along the line. I'm sure they've had title insurance, they've had searches, and if it didn't show up, it confounds me that we have all these processes in place to protect people when they purchase a property, to know exactly what's legal and what isn't legal and so forth, and yet it still goes badly. I'd like to see us do something in our action tonight that would move toward legitimizing this, so it doesn't pop up again somewhere down the road, or maybe upon sale in the future. It's very possible that none of us will be around to remember exactly what the discussion was or what we talked about this evening. But I'd like to see some good suggestion as to how we could make this work. Obviously, it's there. The pool is, a part of the whole project. They've got the land. You're absolutely right. They could subdivide and add 4 more or 3 more structures, but it doesn't mean that they won't run into this problem again somewhere down the road.
Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, John, I think the draft of a motion that Arthur distributed vis-a-vis the pool does exactly that by essentially granting a variance to allow 4 accessory structures. That's what I read. And I agree. We need to take care of that. We can't leave this hanging. The owners deserve to know that this has been resolved.
I mean, it wouldn't have shown up because it had a building permit and a CO or a certificate of completion, so.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with everybody. The only other thought I had was, I think perhaps the extra footprint to the barn should be considered at the time they're actually going to do something. That might alleviate some of the pressure from this evening.
Is that I mean, again, that's separate. If they're going to expand onto the barn or do anything in the future, like, that doesn't need to concern this application right now today.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion from the board on this topic? Okay, Arthur, let's move on.
Oh,
I'll read my motion.
wait, we need to open the public hearing. We have.
Well, no, are we doing two separate, are
Can
we
we
doing
have a
these in two
public hearing on
separate?
the Motion or what?
We're not doing this in one, okay, all right.
We can go over the second motion now separately, if you like, and then open the public session at that time.
Is this, do we have this listed as two separate?
What do you mean?
No, they listed as one thing, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to get this one.
Yeah, no, I think we'll handle it together. So let's move on. And then,
Yeah, I'll make two motions, but we'll deal with the second one now.
okay,
Because the nature of the conditions in the motion are very, and there's going to be a bit of difficulty in the second one, the way I'm looking at it, which we'll have to discuss. But the second motion is the 37 feet. What can I say? What I have said in my motion eventually is I don't want to grant them 37 feet for the entire house setback. I'm very glad that our zoning enforcement officer is looking carefully at these, because if we allow the house to have a 37-foot setback in its entirety, then they can keep expanding to the left and to the right of the house.
you're talking the property, you mean, or the house?
It's the house.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what's happened in the past. Occasionally people will say, okay, we can have a setback, which is the current frontage of the house, and now we're going off to the side. And that becomes intrusive in a few situations that we've dealt with, where they're really close to the road and then expanding how they are close to the road, because theoretically, the current frontage of the house should be expanded into the foreseeable future.
I totally agree with you, and I agree with that concept. How do you compare that with section 250-22 that talks about accessory structure, but also talks about that front yard piece?
Those are two different sections.
Okay.
One is number of accessory structures. The other is intrusion into the setback.
Okay.
So what I do with this setback is I'm looking at his drawings at this point, and I'm thinking, what could we grant to this addition that is going to bump out into the setback? And I would estimate that it might need to be allowed to be 74 feet from the front of the road, which is double the current 37. Just looking at his colored graphic imagery, I think also the road curves, giving him at least 74 feet would allow that bump out to fit in quite adequately.
Darren, do you have an idea of the distance from the center line of the road to where your addition is, per se?
I'd have to try to figure that out a little bit, but I mean, the addition really takes place at least 25 feet back into the footprint of the house at the moment. I think we'd even be happy just to say this footprint could be granted, maybe within or 12 inches of it or something like that. But, I'd be happy to just say we're lock in this specific footprint, not even a distance.
Yeah, no, we need to do a distance. So
try to figure it out while we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, again, do you so the most narrow part it's 30, what's the distance there? I don't have that in front of me. 37 feet? 37 feet from the center line of the road? Does that sound accurate, Darren?
It's from the property line, which to me on the map looks like it runs right down the center line of the road. In what we're calling PL is in the center of the road on our map. So yeah, same difference.
Yeah, that's common. Okay. All right, so 37 feet to the center line of the road, and then you're saying at least 25 feet back from that?
Correct, and also beyond I mean, I don't know how you'd word it properly, but beyond the rear plane of the primary rectangle, the original structure, the 1793 structure. Trying to think of a good way to phrase it.
I can tell you how I've worded it.
Sure.
Once I find it here.
Can I
Let's
ask a
see.
question while you're looking, Art?
Yes, certainly.
Not to interrupt you. Is that measurement to the covered porch or to the main part of the house? Could that be a discrepancy with the ZBA? Because
is the white area a covered porch? Is that in the little corner there?
covered porch on the front of the house.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be counted as intruding into the setback if it's covered.
I mean, the instructions to our engineer were, and pretty standard would be the nearest point to the property line, but I understand porches sometimes in different towns are counted differently. I don't think it's the reason for the 11 versus 37 foot. I think the 11 was just an error made early on.
Okay.
The porch is only about 4 or 5 feet deep.
I just want to be,
Yeah.
oh, okay, it's only 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah, it's not.
I want to make sure this is accurate. I don't think it's going to change the outcome for you at all. It's just, I wanted to make sure that we're clear and it's accurate. And 37 and 25 is 62 feet. So, sorry, Art, I'm
suggesting that the work starts at 37 plus 25, 62 feet, yeah. And then, yeah. Let's see if I can find some measurements here.
I guess I'm a little confused where we're going with this. The if the yeah, so how do we word this?
Again, it's
okay. I've got the sentence.
Okay.
Just whether or not it works, whatever. This motion grants a variance to 74 feet or whatever. To add to the footprint and only the footprint of the home to the east. You're thinking.
Yep.
He's thinking. Darren's thinking.
I'm just trying to think if well, it's a little bit to the north and the east, right?
All right, northeast.
Primarily.
And there's also
away from the road, I could say for sure. It's moving away from the road.
Yeah.
The red also includes a little bit to the west as well.
Well, that's well, yeah, but that will be further back from the intrusion granted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see your point. Absolutely. Yep. That works.
Perhaps something along the lines of like no closer to the road, or all work to take place beyond the rear line of the original 1793 structure or original 1793 footprint, because that's factual.
And that's the straightest section of the back of the house there.
That's the straightest section of the house in general.
That works for me.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Whatever that measurement is, yeah.
Particularly
Joseph, what do you think about that in relation to measurement?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Arthur. Can
What do you think about that in relation to an actual measurement?
I'm fine with it. I mean, again, part of this is that, again, historically in the past, if it has been less restrictive, meaning if they were putting something on behind that, then it wouldn't even come before the board. It's just if they were taking it from the house closer that it would be. So this is, with our current zoning enforcement officer, something that he's bringing up. And to your point, Arthur, I mean, certainly we want to try to minimize the non-conformity of what it is that we're doing. So, if the board's okay with it, you know, I can live with that.
Can you just repeat how you're proposing to word that?
I'm thinking about what Darren said, and then I'm thinking about inserting it here. Do you want to give me whatever time it takes for me to insert it?
Well, maybe Darren can just repeat it the way he said it.
Well, we have to get it written down somewhere.
Right.
He can repeat it, but then he'll have to repeat it again as I don't type as fast as he speaks.
Okay.
Speak slow, Darren, speak slow.
If I could say it again, is the same way I did before. I think what I said was all work to take place beyond the rear of the original 1793 footprint. So in other words, behind the rear.
No other words. All
Rear.
work to take.
While he types, I'm taking a break.
The
Okay, go
beyond
I've ever seen.
the 1793 rear 1793 rear of the 1793 beyond
It goes beyond the
rear
wall of the original 1793.
Okay, and that's clear on the structure.
Yeah, it's clear, and we could certainly produce something, or someone could always produce something to show.
Okay, you guys, I'm not listening.
Okay.
Can I ask a question while Art's not listening? Am I totally off base in saying that it is somewhat addressed in one, in the end of the second sentence there? New footprint to the east with a setback of approximately between 60 feet and 80 feet. If it were to say 60 feet at the front and X feet at the rear, isn't it sort of redundant?
Well, if we just said a 60-foot setback, then we don't have to do the rear, but just the front, because that's what they're applying for.
Well, so the 60 and 80 is a 20-foot variable there?
No, it would be, we would just say, if we went that route, we would just say 60 feet.
Okay, so
We allow the construction of an addition to take place within 60 feet of the front yard setback. But let's see what Arthur has. You have it there, Arthur?
I have all work to take place beyond the rear wall of the original 1790 structure. I need to add a few words. This motion grants a variance to something, all work. I'll work on that a little bit more, but okay, so this seems to be progress.
Are we, again, just in general, are we okay, the board, is the board okay with the concept of going with that measurement? Which again, what's important to me is that we have something set in stone. So it's either, which the foundation is, we either have 60 feet from the front yard or something that we can measure to. And so if you can measure to the back of the, original foundation, then I'm fine with that.
I think either way, I think it already says it's to the back. I think we're kind of, put it bluntly, nitpicking here. If you want to say all construction be to the rear of the original structure, that's fine too. That probably designates it more because you know where the original structure ends. It's not between 60 and 80, but either way.
Okay.
It keeps any future action on the property from being done at 37 feet for some reason.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Any further comments about this? Are we ready to open the public hearing?
Yay.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any comments from the public?
Bonnie,
Okay, my name is Bonnie Fulmer, and I know got the zoning laws, so I have to defer to your judgment in whatever you decide with these particular questions. I'm here because I live directly across the road from this property. If you looked at that stone cottage, that map you just had up there recently, and went to the left across Schultz Hill Road and up into the woods, that's where I live. I've just been seeing quite a bit of work on the property over the last few months with heavy equipment and machinery and things knocked down and things put up. And I've been a little concerned about what the overall plans are, because it seems like something major is going on. My two biggest concerns were when I heard there was an extension or addition on the house, was basically like the purpose of that. You know, are we talking somebody wants to make improvements of their home to make it a nice place to live, or are we talking about adding a ballroom for wedding venues or something? So it sounds to me like, you know, it's residential improvements that the people are looking for. My other major concern was that stone cottage as an accessory dwelling. I'm very concerned about the changes on Schultz Hill Road over the last 30 years that I've lived here. Specifically, there are a number of Airbnbs that have popped up suddenly. They're between Browns Pond Road and Mountain View Road, which is less than a half a mile stretch of Schultz Hill. There are now 2 standalone cottages that are rented out continuously. And I see out-of-state plates there all through this pandemic, and they're all different. So, and I looked at the Airbnb site, and they're rented out like through all of March and April and May coming up in the foreseeable future. The house directly across from me was recently sold and converted and has turned into some kind of a rental by the same people. They're doing major construction on the guest cottage that goes with that house, and presumably they're going to be renting that out as well. So I realize this is not Ms. DeMello and Mr. Clark's problem. I mean, if they're entitled to have an Airbnb on their property as well, you know, if it's the zoning, it's in the zoning, and there's not much I can do about it, but I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing. I will say just up the road, Schultz Hill, again, there's an events area up there, and I live like almost a mile away. I hear music 10, 11 o'clock at night and loudspeakers presenting Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. And so and I'm hearing fireworks, all not so much this year with the pandemic, but, you know, not just on 4th of July. I mean, like all of the time. So it's just the whole character of this section of the town, I think, has changed quite a bit. And I was concerned with the major construction that seems to be going on at 13 Mountain View, like what was being planned there, you know? So I've gotten some of my questions addressed, I guess.
Good. Thank you, Bonnie. And I'll ask Darren a couple questions just to follow up. Appreciate you being here and asking questions and expressing your concerns. That's the whole, you know, one of the major reasons for this whole venue. So Darren, can you just speak to the intent of what the homeowner plans on using the addition for?
Certainly. So the intent behind the addition is just basically the way the current addition lays out. So exactly the same uses, a kitchen, bedroom space upstairs, but just configured much differently. Essentially, the current addition is just a pass-through area. So it's a giant hallway, and it's very hard to, you know, to do anything inside of it because it's just a giant hallway, essentially is what's been created there. So if you were to look at the new plan versus the old, the programming is exactly the same, just done in a way where the staircase moves, the master bedroom gets a little more interesting, and the kitchen gets done in a way that it's not just a pass-through for everyone, all traffic to go through. Really just that, and then just some upgrading of the quality of materials and some windows to add a lot more view. Essentially, we're talking about a lot of windows facing the mountain view just over Schultz Hill Road. And then as far as the stone cottage goes, the intent is Michael Clark's father's retiring from the LA County Water Department. I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, but that's intended to be his part-time residence when he comes to stay with them. So just to give him his own space and you know, he can leave some things behind and kind of escape the grandkids. So that's what they've stated to me, the intent of that to be. And they're just social people. They come up, this has been their primary residence for over a year now. They do have a residence in the city. Like many, they just decided to stay with COVID. They can work remotely, and they, invite friends up from the city. So a kitchen that is a little better.
I'll notice. I don't want to be like that neighbor, but I can tell you, I'm already seeing like the floodlights when they're having the pool parties. I hear the music. They've got speakers out there. I get to dance along to whatever they're playing. So if there are things in the design of what you're doing that maybe could provide a little more buffer. I'm elevated, so maybe the sound is just traveling right up to my house. I don't know. As the crow flies, I'm not very far away, but I'm already part of your social experiences, whether you want me to be or not. And I kind of was hoping that wouldn't escalate,
Sure.
When the additions and the plans were being made, it's like, oh no, please.
Yeah. And I can speak to the buffer issue too. A lot of the work you've seen is they've made a massive investment in landscaping and plan to continue. In fact, we're having a difficult time sourcing enough landscape material for them this year. They want so many trees and so many mature trees to add to the property. So, frankly, that's only going to get better and better in terms of beauty of the property, but also sound. I can talk to them about, a different volume knob for their stereo,
Well,
maybe a little red mark that they can't go above.
No, I don't want to squash their fun. Like I said, I wanted to have a heads up that this wasn't going to turn into the same kind of place that we have just down the road, where they are having weddings every other weekend, and it's really kind of not adding to the neighborhood.
Yeah, understandable.
Go ahead, Arthur.
Yes, speaking to concerns of the neighbors, and if the stone cottages applied for a special permit, I believe the neighbor would get notified, neighbors would be notified, and I don't know that it would come to us, but in the planning board, I don't know if the planning board can, I'm pretty sure they can make recommendations for concerns of neighbors in terms of maybe sound buffers. Directions of lighting is something we often address to keep lighting away from neighbors. So speaking to this neighbor's concerns, it's just to be alert to the planning board steps. You should get Arlene, I think she's done, you can get a notice in the mail if they go that way, and bring your concerns up and see how they might address them.
I just want to speak, the planning board normally address the concern, the downlighting, the screening, they address that, they address the concerns of the public, with the resolution.
Okay, any other further discussion from the public? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Further discussion about these? Now, Arthur, you have them set as two separate motions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would it be possible to combine them into one motion?
I'd rather not, because each motion has different conditions in relation to the 5 statements of.
I don't mind doing two. Is everyone else good with that?
It's fine.
It's small, short.
How do we do this? We have 2 motions, and what if you both agree to it?
It's fine. There'll be 2 motions that were agreed to. Not a problem.
I have to work on the wording of this one in the setback distance. So I think I'll just.
Are we good with the accessory structure?
Yes, that one is doesn't have any changes.
Let's do that one first then.
I would like to make a motion that we grant to Michael Clark and Carmine DeMello of 13 Mountain View Road, gridded 070730, a variance from section 250-22A4, allowing only 3 accessory structures with limited exceptions on a parcel to be increased to 4. Pardon me for a minute. Number one, an undesirable change was not brought about in the neighborhood, nor will the continued use of the pool be a detriment to the nearby properties. You notice the past tense refers to, this motion has the preamble, so to speak. The pool is tucked behind the house, not visible from the road, and hundreds of feet through the woods from next door neighbors. The benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by demolishing one of the structures or of varying value, or granting the variance. The variance of 33% is substantial. The placement of a swimming pool of moderate size has had no known adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood, nor would any future such effect be expected. 5, alleged hardship was not self-created because the current owners would not be expected to be aware of the error in 2002. If this is an aside, I'd like to point out that almost never is it not self-created. So,
True.
6, a residential area variance does not require an adjective statement. 7, a residential area variance is a type 2 action that is secret and requires no further action. 8, the site is not in the CEA district. 9, the site is on a scenic or historic road, Mountain View. 10, the site is not within the boundary or buffer of a wetland. 11, part of this parcel, not necessarily the site of concern, appears to be in the Ridgeline Scenic and Historical Protection Overlay District.
Great. Second for discussion.
Can I second my own motion?
Thank you. All right, discussion.
I would like to just refer back to, again, that's that C1 map for the purpose of, I think someone, Art, I think it was you, as a matter of fact, brought up the fact that that particular map shows the septic systems tying in the accessory structures. Darren, I think you made mention of an amendment or a revision addressing that they not be tied in. I'm not sure where it fits in this motion or the next, but I didn't want to lose that that point and how and where we
No, that was not the accessory structure. I think, Ron, he was talking about the possible future expansion up at the barn, not the accessory structure. The accessory structure, he said, would be tied into this because they have a failing septic system now. They're putting in a big modern one up above that will take the house and the accessory structure in the same system.
Yeah, but the
I
map
understood
currently
Darren,
shows the barn is tying into it.
I think both of those are correct statements. So I believe where we left off was we're going to try to put a provision in there that said there's only one of the accessory structures that's intended to be for residential use and have plumbing or whatever the word you want to put in there. So we're perfectly fine with that. I don't know how to put it into the resolution, or I don't know the planning board will deal with it, but to protect this decision.
I don't believe that a variance would be required for the accessory dwelling unit. It's a planning board site plan issue prerogative. So I think we can let the planning board deal with this, Ron. Now that there is a full 10 acres in the single parcel, they are in fact allowed an accessory dwelling unit. And this one falls within that very small, our accessory dwelling unit regs are pretty restrictive, but this seems to fall within that. So,
okay,
I think you're right, Charles.
Ron, are you talking about the barn up to the right or the stone barn off to the left?
The barn up to the northeast side.
Up to the right. You see it tied into the septic.
That's what the map I'm looking at shows, yes.
yeah, I'm sorry, Ron, you're right. It does show that.
Yeah, that was the sink we discussed earlier. So, I'm suggesting we just put a provision in there that says the number of accessory structures, only one is intended to be for residential use and have indoor plumbing or something like that, if that makes you feel safer.
It's really, it's.
We can put a condition in. I can add a condition.
Yeah, let's do that. let's put a condition that only
Wouldn't-
one. Go ahead.
Only an approved,
I'm wondering why we're putting the car before the horse.
only an approved accessory dwelling unit can be tied into the septic system.
There you go.
Russ, the reason
I'm the main resident.
for my concern is that I don't want to give anybody a false impression that we reviewed this and it was here. So in effect, we were approving it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
We haven't approved that addition, I called it a separate building next to the barn. That's gonna have to be brought up when they decide, if they decide to build it. And at that time, that should be addressed. Then I don't think there's any need to address it now, but
I agree with
as
you.
he was so gracious.
I agree with you in terms of the expansion or addition to the barn, but the map I'm looking at shows sewage line or septic line from the existing building.
It's there, condition. Only an approved accessory dwelling unit can be tied into a septic system condition.
Okay. Does anyone have any issues with that condition? Okay.
No, I think that's a good provision to put in, and if nothing else, it addresses some of the neighbors' concerns that this thing just keep getting bigger and bigger and have more possibilities for large group gatherings and so forth. I think that's an important piece to put in as a condition.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further discussion on this? All right, John, your vote. Again, I vote in favor of granting it, nay vote in opposition to granting it. John?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Norma?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Arthur?
Aye.
Russell? Russell?
Aye.
Okay. And my vote is aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, your first variance, conditional variance has been granted. Arthur, let us know. when
I've
you're
got
ready.
to do a little work on this one. I'm going to mute you guys.
Okay, so why don't we do this while you're working on this? Let's take like a 5-minute break because I certainly.
Okay, I'll take myself off camera.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's 9:26. Let's do like 9:31-ish. All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
It's like been overrun with ants here.
Hey, Arthur, how you making out over there? Arlene, do we still have one more variance to do?
We better.
Yep. Guess who the applicant is?
Yeah.
It took all this time.
Again.
This is going to be known as Davidovich night
Yeah.
in Clinton Corners.
All right. So we're just waiting on Arthur to finish typing.
Darren, did you ever have a relative who owned a bunch of land in Clinton?
Not that I'm aware of. I think I'm the only one up here, but it could be someone that I'm just not current on.
When I was a young boy back in the 50s, the property up next to us was owned by Davidowitz,
Really?
and it was actually a camp in the summer for deaf and dumb people. They used to come up here. You'd see
Okay.
them walking up and down the road because they couldn't talk. They talked with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
He
Interesting.
owned a big parcel.
What road is that on? Where was that?
That was on 9 Partners Road.
Hmm.
Schultzville.
Okay. I'll have to look into it.
Was that used to be Eiffel's, Russ?
Yeah. Before Eiffel, it was Green. She had patients from Hudson River there.
Yeah.
Then Eiffel had patients. But Davidowitz, when I was a kid, like I say, back in the 50s, they came up for the summer. The whole house was very divided into single bedrooms, and they catered to deaf and dumb people.
Hmm.
Just as where Craig Marshall is, that used to be owned by a Hungarian fellow, and they used to board out in the summer to just Hungarian people used to come up there.
Hmm.
I go back a long ways.
Charlie.
Oh, Arthur.
No.
You're back.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm here.
All right, great. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. All right.
Go for it.
Look relieved, like you accomplished something you're proud of.
Why don't I just read the section that I've modified and we can see if that's suitable.
Sure.
All right, so this motion grants a variance for a limited intrusion into the front yard setback to remodel the addition at the back, to remodel the addition at the back of the house. All work is to take place beyond the rear wall of the original 1793 structure. This intrusion is limited to the project presented to the board at this time.
Thank you to me.
Okay. Any comments from the board? All right, go for the whole thing, Arthur.
I'd like to make a motion that we grant Michael Clark and Carmine DeMello of 13 Mountain View Road, grid number 07073, a variance from section 250, attachment 2, which sets the front yard setback in this district at 100 feet. This motion grants a variance for a limited intrusion into the front yard setback to remodel the addition at the back of the house, to remodel the addition at the back of the house. All work is to take place beyond the rear wall of the original 1793 structure. The intrusion is limited to the project presented to the board at this time. Ooh, okay. My first condition will have to be modified as well. Sorry about that. The setback on this 1790s house is surveyed at 37.7 feet. It is not unusual for older homes to be in the current zoning setbacks. The owners wish to make renovations at the rear of the house and have submitted a variance request with a drawing indicating a new footprint to the northeast. Sorry, I'm gonna have to add some words here. I'll make it northeast.
Actually, I wonder if just north
with a,
accurate.
with a, with, the intrusion allowed above with the,
Work to say, to simply say as detailed above, with a setback as detailed above. Or set forth
all right,
above.
I can delete what I've typed and type what you want
But let's,
with what
let's,
you want.
ideally, if you can just kind of go through it and then we'll get to second and then we'll make the comments. Then we can kind of dive into it.
Okay, and this is, then this next sentence is within the normal first condition. This enlargement will not bring about an undesirable change in the neighborhood. The benefits sought by the applicant can only be achieved by allowing for the setback modification. I'm going to call the variance at 26, the variance of, oh, what's it? Let's say a variance of this. I don't know the percentage of the variance.
You can
This
just say
variance
is
is substantial. Yeah. This variance is substantial. The enlargement will have no adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. Sounds like somebody's speaking or coughing. Sorry. 5, the alleged hardship was self-created, as is normal when homeowners wish to make improvements that are constrained by zoning. 6, the residential area variance does not require an ag data statement. 7, the residential area variance is a type 2 action under secret and requires no further action. 8, the site is not in the CEA. 9, the site is on a scenic historic road, Mountain View. 10, the site is not within a boundary of a buffer or wetland. 11, the part of this parcel, not necessarily the site of concern, appears to be within the Ridgeline Scenic and Historic Protection Overlay District. There are no known outstanding zoning violations, having approved the previous variance.
second for
That's
discussion.
why I wanted to do this second.
Yeah. Second for discussion.
Second.
Okay, great. All right, so let's not tackle your number 1, which is the bigger one. Were there any other items on there that you needed to refine there, Arthur, other than number 1?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right, so let's go to number 1. Do you want to reread that one?
I'm sorry, I'm making a little correction on the typo on 11. I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Yeah, 1. So let's see.
Ashley, come on, Miss Ash.
So the wording, which Ron and I are dealing with, my wording was that the drawing indicating a new footprint to the northeast with the intrusion allowed above.
Are you talking number 1 here?
Yeah, number 1. Do you want me to read it from the beginning?
Please.
The setback on this 1790s house, what's that? It's a bug on the screen. Sorry. Is surveyed at 37.7 feet. It is not unusual.
I'm just going to stop you. Do you mind putting the front yard setback?
Excuse me?
Do you mind putting the front yard setback? Just putting front yard.
7.7 front yard.
The front yard setback, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The front yard setback on the 1790s house is surveyed at 37.7 feet. It is not unusual for older homes to be in the current zoning setbacks. The owners wish to make renovations at the rear of the house and have submitted with the variance request a drawing indicating a new footprint to the northeast with the intrusions allowed above.
Okay, so there, can we just change that to say, the owners wish to make renovations at the rear of the house and have submitted have submitted a variance request with drawings indicating. So just submitted a variance request with
drawings indicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A new footprint to the northeast with the intrusions allowed above. Now, Ron has wanted to word it somewhat different. Similarly referring to the way that the intrusion was described, but still referring.
When you say intrusion, are we talking about the renovation?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be clear to me if we said renovation as rather than intrusion.
I'm not talking about we're granting them an intrusion for the renovation. We're not granting them a renovation.
Okay. So maybe just read that part again. Just that
Number one?
Yeah, not the whole thing, just that last piece about the intrusion.
Last sentence of number
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. The owners wish to make renovations at the rear of the house and have submitted with the variance request with drawings indicated. They've submitted with the variance request a drawing indicating.
Can I ask?
So what I have, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that the intent here is to allow renovation, is to grant a variance to the front yard setback in order to allow renovation of the house. The variance allows, as long as that renovation is no closer to the front yard than the existing back wall of the 1793 house.
That's in the first paragraph of the motion.
Then just, that's it. Don't say anything else. Why? What?
Well, this is item number one is describing it again and saying this enlargement would not, the last sentence of item number one is this enlargement would not bring about an undesirable change.
That's good. Just leave that.
I can, yeah, if I delete one whole sentence, so it's, first sentence is says what it is currently. Second sentence says this is not unusual. Then I delete reference to the first paragraph and just.
Yeah, it says it clearly in the first paragraph. I mean, it describes what the variance is.
All right, I can do that if that's what the board would recommend.
Makes it simple.
You're not gonna finish that, make it simple, stupid. All right. All right, so I've modified that part of the motion.
Okay, what does it say?
Now it says, number one, the front yard setback on the 1790s house is surveyed at 37.7 feet. It is not unusual for older homes to be in the current zoning setbacks. This enlargement will not bring about an undesirable change in the neighborhood.
Okay. I like it. Okay.
You like it?
Yeah.
I'm I'm fine with it. It's simpler. Yeah. Less confusing.
Okay.
Not as detailed and intricate.
Okay. Were there any other points of this to?
No, you've heard everything, including the first paragraph, which talks about not measurements per se, but intrusion in relation to a specific place.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? Anything they need clarification on? Okay. So an I vote is in favor of granting it. A nay vote is in opposition to granting it. John Colagero.
Aye.
Charles Canham.
Aye.
Norma Dolan.
Aye.
Ron Mostello.
Aye.
Arthur Weiland.
Aye.
Russell Tompkins.
Hey, Russ.
And myself, aye, while Russ is.
Well, we got a majority, even if he never comes back.
All right. Russ, what's your vote? Oh, all right.
I don't see him in the.
Yes, I lost an animal, ran out the door, so aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, great. So you've got a special one here, Darren. You've got two for the price of one.
It's not done yet.
Now we're going to move on to the second or third one, depending on how you look at it. Arthur, thank you very much for going through that and working through it. It's challenging to do those, and for the input of the board. As always, it may seem like we're laboring it all, but we're trying to do the best we can and give every project and every applicant a fair shake in what we're doing. So appreciate your patience with us as well, Darren. Now we have to move on to the next one, which is Darren. All right.
So I'm going to recuse myself.
What's that?
I'm going to recuse myself. They're
Okay.
contiguous neighbors, so
Okay.
no preferential treatment one way or the other.
All right.
I'll listen in, but I'm going to mute.
So now you're a member of the public. So when it comes to time for public, you're welcome to contribute. Okay. So with that, Darren, why don't you go ahead and do the same thing again?
Sure, absolutely. So this one is 1556 Hollow Road, an 11.2 acre parcel in the AR5 zone. Arlene, I think the best exhibit is that one I sent you today. Property. You had it up before when we were in the other application. Yeah, Zechariah. That's the application. I don't see the. Oh, maybe that's it. Well, she's pulling that up. So 11.2 acres in the AR5 zone. Yeah, that's perfect. Interesting siting of the buildings. They are jammed right up against the, guess what, front property line on this one, leaving almost all of the 11 acres behind the house and an existing barn structure. So with this proposal, and there's a little zoom in the corner, which perfect is a lot more helpful scale-wise to see what's going on. We are proposing to connect an existing barn to the main residence. These two buildings are, depending on where you measure, as close as 3 feet from one another, maybe slightly less than that. So you have a house that was constructed in 1800s, you have a barn that was constructed in the 1900s, and the owners have largely just let the barn be a barn for all the years that they've owned it. And they made a decision to say, well, why don't we annex it into the house and create some real living area out of it? And so we surveyed the barn quite extensively and determined that we could do that through an addition, roughly an 18 by 10 addition, which would provide a mudroom to the house, which is currently accessed directly into their kitchen. So it gives them a bit of an entry corridor and allows a connection, indoor connection to the adjacent barn. The one thing that's a little bit different about this is that we're actually proposing to dismantle and reassemble the barn essentially in the same place. And the reason for that is it's a timber frame barn. It's in fairly poor condition. It's got what you'd expect, damage from animals and insects over the years, also water, and it wasn't really on much of anything in the way of a footing or foundation, largely just set on some field stones and some bedrock. So what we're proposing, and we've actually been granted a demolition permit from the planning board to do, is to essentially take apart the barn, remove the timber frame, catalog it, build a foundation, build a new barn shell, and as we go, re-erect the timber frame within that new structure. So they'll have what looks like a barn from the outside and has the original timber frame on the inside. The timber frame just will no longer be a structural component of the building. The timber frame will be in essentially a museum and will be connected to the walls, but won't be serving a structural purpose. So what we run up against, just like with the last application, is we have some difficulty with the front yard setback. So as it sits today, the house is 20.4 feet from the road, or 20 feet 4 inches from the road. The barn is 43 feet and 9 inches from the road. And the addition is, the proposed addition would be 35.5 feet from the road. So not only is the house in the setback entirely, so is the barn, and so is our proposed addition, which would actually be closer to the road than the barn itself, but behind the front line of the house as it relates to the road. And I should point out there is a fairly large retaining wall right in front of the house and the barn, about 5 feet tall. So the road is actually a little bit higher than these structures as it goes along the front of the property line. So not all of this is completely visible right off the edge of the roadway. But again, like the last application, we have a front yard setback issue as it relates to the existing buildings and their proposed reconstruction. Not only are they too close, but all the work we're proposing is within that 100-foot required setback, despite the fact that they have an 11.2 acre parcel.
All right, thank you, John.
Okay. I'll start with the planning board minutes. I'm just going to kind of summarize them. The following motion was made on the requested area variance to section, and I have to say they mentioned 250-98D. I think they're referring to 250 attachment 2 on the setback requirements, the distances, to rebuild an existing barn and construct an addition joining the house and the barn, all of which would be within the 100-foot minimum front yard setbacks. Applicants Jeff and Frederic Zachariah seek an area variance to rebuild an existing barn and construct an addition joining the house and barn, all of which would be within the 100-foot setback. The addition would be 180 square feet and would serve as a mudroom connecting the existing house and barn. Applicants propose to dismantle the existing barn and have obtained a demolition permit and rebuild it on a proper foundation in the same location. Both existing buildings are within the 100-foot setback and were constructed many years before the zoning code was passed. The existing house is closer to Hollow Road. The proposed addition would be further from the road than the front of the house. The addition is relatively small and would not significantly affect the mass of the existing structures or the view from Hollow Road. Other homes on Hollow Road are also within the 100-foot setback. Accordingly, we believe the project will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The benefit cannot be achieved without an area variance. The addition of the mudroom may not be substantial, but the project as a whole is substantial. It would not have any adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. The difficulty is self-created as to the addition, and that motion was carried 7-0. So it's, again, the numbers game on the front yard setback. And I see the numbers mentioned a little bit differently in various parts of the paperwork. So I would just like to ask Darren to clarify so that we give the right thing in the motion. The front yard for the existing house is 20 feet. And the front yard for the existing barn is 40 feet. And you're asking for 35.5 for the addition?
Correct.
That is correct. And so that's going to be a rather narrow addition there, right?
Yeah.
You're okay with 35.5, right?
I'm okay with 34. I show the barn is a little further, but we might as well go with the most invasive number just in case there's some error in that.
Right, because at one point in the application, I saw different numbers, and I just want to make sure so that we are giving you
the property
what you need if that's all you want.
Yep, that'll do it. The addition is relatively small, as you pointed out, so it's just really a connector section.
Okay. Chelsea?
Yeah. Okay. So any further comments from the board?
Somehow I'm losing my, I'm going to mute myself and then unmute again because everybody's sounding kind of. Okay.
Can you hear us okay, John?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, good.
You're a little, you all sound like you have sore throats right now, but that's okay.
It's 10 o'clock. We're tired.
Okay.
Okay, so further discussion from the board. Okay, everyone's very talkative. I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Any discussions from the public? All right, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Further discussion from the board? Any questions about this? Okay. All right, John, your motion.
Okay, I motion that the Town of Clinton Zoning Board of Appeals grant the following variances from 250 Attachment 2 to Jeff and Frederique Zachariah of 1556 Hollow Road, Clinton Corners, New York. Tax grid number 6566002572242 to facilitate the reconstruction of an existing barn and in addition, joining that barn to the existing house, all of which exist or will exist in the 100-foot minimum front setback. 1, front yard from 100 feet to 20 feet for the house. 2, front yard from 100 feet to 40 feet for the existing barn. And 3, front yard from 100 feet to 35.5 feet for the proposed addition. Whereas the applicants wish to reconstruct an existing barn in its current location and then attach it to the existing house with a small mudroom / addition, which will connect the two buildings. 2, the two buildings predate zoning and are built close to the road, which is the case with many of Clinton's older structures. 3, the property is non-conforming in that the construction of the buildings 1800, and 1900 respectively preceded zoning, but only the proposed 180 square foot connecting mudroom would actually be an expansion of that nonconformity. 4, that addition would actually be located behind the front line of the house and should present a minimal visual impact due to its lowered elevation in relationship to the road at that particular spot. 5, the project should have no environmental impact when complete and should not create an undesirable change to the neighborhood. 6, reconstructing the barn in the same location will keep the original historical layout of this property as it currently exists and neutralize the project's impact. To move the project outside the setback would produce new and greater disturbance. 7, the planning board has made a positive recommendation to the ZBA for the granting of these variances. 8, the property is in the Taconic Parkway viewshed. 9, the hardship is self-created. 10, an area variance is a type 2 action under seeker and requires no further action. 11, there are no known violations. And 12, all fees have been paid.
Second for discussion.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any comments? All right, looks good. An aye vote is in favor of granting the variance, and nay vote is not in favor of granting the variance. John Colangelo.
I have to go first?
Yep.
Aye.
Charles Canham.
Aye.
Norma Dolan.
Aye.
Ron Mostello.
Aye.
Russ Tompkins.
Aye.
And my vote is aye. All right, Darren, any questions?
No, none at all. Thank you all for hanging in there tonight.
Got a little quicker on this one.
No.
You wore us out on the last one.
That's how it's done, Russ.
Backwards the two.
All right, thank you. Arlene, did you give us minutes to review?
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, take care, Darren. Do we have minutes? Arlene, you're
Yeah.
muted. Not that, you want to unmute yourself, Arlene, and say that again?
Bonnie, you're good to go. We're done. I said, do you imagine we're gonna have 6 variances. I don't know how we're gonna do 6 variances in one night. It's like I had to put them on the next one because it's impossible. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you.
And that's what happened with you, Ron. I had to put it the next one because we'll be here until 1, 2 o'clock.
Well, it depends. If it was like the second one, it wouldn't be a problem.
Well, you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Oh, he's
And
back.
Arlene, is that the 22nd? What's
The
the,
next one?
yeah,
Oh, no. We're not gonna have 6. Well, so far right now, we have 3 already. So hopefully I don't get more.
no, I'm just asking about the date because
Date
I
of the
will be
next-
here. I'm not available on April 22nd, so I just wanted to let
Oh,
you
we're
know.
gonna miss you. Yes, this is the
Yes,
22nd.
I'm not going to be here. If you have 6, I have a previous engagement.
Arthur?
I got knocked offline, my end. You're all done with the Zachariah?
We're done.
Quick.
It's granted the setback and everything?
Yes.
Okay, that's nice.
We thought so.
Yeah,
He was pleased. It was really quick.
I was gonna be doing dishes for an hour.
Yeah, it's
So
done.
anyway, so everybody wants to get done because it's that time of the season right now, right? Well, everybody's trying to build. The spring is here. So, and we only have one ZBA in a month. So everybody want to get in the meeting. So
How many applications do you have?
right now, I have 3 right now. And that is if I don't get more meeting, if I get more variants for the second meeting of the planning board, they all want to go to the ZBA because it's once a month.
How many do you have potential?
Right now, I have 3 right now.
No.
That's going to be going to
3 you
planning-
have, how many potential?
I don't know. It depends on what I'm gonna get next week. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has
Okay,
to,
so let us know. So if we, to give us an idea if we need to try to get another meeting in or
I
something.
normally talk to the property owner, whether timeline wise, if they could, okay, to go to the next one, you know.
Yep. Okay, if not, then let us know. We can see if we can get a quorum together.
What,
Or
you want to have another meeting?
No, I don't want to have another meeting, but at the same time, if there's projects and things that are moving forwards,
Right.
it's, important to our community, then I'm certainly willing to ask the board if they'd be willing to help out.
Correct.
That's nice.
So,
Well, it all affects contracts and moving of equipment
Yeah.
and supplies and.
All right, folks, I had a cat take off out the door and I'm gonna go out and try to find it because it's
okay,
not
all
a,
right.
not
I
an
need to
outside
go
cat.
home because it's 10 o'clock. I gotta go home.
Shut the door.
Okay, do we have any minutes to go over? Are we good? Okay, great. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Oh, I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right.
So moved. Thank you all.